Welcome back with a smiling face. Links to previous episodes are given in the video description, so don't forget to like, subscribe and share the video. The Ring of Destiny. Episode 3. Chapter 41. You bully people too much. You bully us ordinary people because you have money and power. Come and see, Miss Sue is bullying people. Delia wouldn't wipe David's clothes. She couldn't get over that hurdle in her heart. David has always been obedient to her, licking dogs, but now she is suddenly asked to bow to David. She can't do it. At this time, Delia pretended to be weak, hoping to get the pity and help of the people around her. Snapped. Just when Delia wanted to seek help from the people around her, Sonia stepped forward and slapped Delia without any hesitation. What nonsense, I'll let you wipe it off now, Sonia said to Delia in an unquestionable tone. Delia covered her face and looked at the crowd around her, but no one helped out, and she was even a little timid. She had already left in a hurry and did not dare to stay any longer. The helpless Delia looked at Sonia's cold look. She could only take out a tissue, walk slowly to David, and squatted down to wipe the saliva off David's clothes. David looked down at Delia with a sneer on his face, but just when Delia was about to wipe it off for David, David avoided it. Delia was stunned for a moment, then looked up at David. I'm afraid your hands will stain my clothes. After David finished speaking, he wiped it off with a tissue. You? Delia's chest heaved angrily. She didn't know how to refute. Let's go. David took Sonia's hand and strode out of the mall. Delia looked at the backs of the two. Her whole body was shaking with anger. She gritted her teeth and said, David, you BA5TARD, I will never let you go. But David had already walked out of the mall and couldn't hear it. You're quite saucy today. It doesn't match your identity as the eldest lady of the Sue family. If this is spread out, it won't affect you well. Walking out of the mall, David looked at Sonia and said, I don't care if she's good or not, I get angry when I see that Delia. Sonia gritted her teeth, and her face was still angry, but then she looked at David. Are you scared by me? No. David smiled and shook his head. When you show off your power, it's quite tasteful. Since you like it, then I'll be angry with you every day, right? Sonia turned her eyes. Don't, David waved his hands again and again, and immediately changed the subject and asked, where are you taking me by dressing me up like this? Today, there is a big banquet at our Regal Hotel, and all the people of Horrendal will be present. I heard that the conditions for participating are very strict, and they are not allowed to bring their families, but this is in our own hotel. I don't need an invitation. Bring you in, so that you can get acquainted with the famous people in Horrendal. Sonia was not selling a lawsuit, and followed David truthfully. After David heard it, he was a little bit dumbfounded. Gu Wenchen held a big banquet for him, and now Sonia wanted to sneak him in. What are you laughing at? What I said is true, and this time the ancient banquet was held to introduce a friend to the big brothers in Horrendal. Now they are all guessing who this ancient friend is. Do you know how many people want to attend this banquet, but don't have the qualifications and opportunities at all? If the banquet is not held at the Regal Hotel, I have no chance to bring you in, so you have to behave well. Sonia followed David and exhorted. Okay, I'll do well. David smiled. He didn't tell Sonia the truth, he just wanted to surprise her. Before he knew it, David could also feel the change in his heart towards Sonia. Although neither of the two said anything, there were some things that he could feel, tacitly aware of it. Chapter 42. Horrendal Hospital. Xiao Yan hurried over, threw a suit to Jordan and said, Put your clothes on and follow me. Dad, I'm recovering, where should I go? Jordan asked with a puzzled look. Take you to a banquet. Xiao Yan said. Don't go, my arm is broken, and I am recovering from the injury. What kind of banquet are you attending? When Jordan heard this, he immediately lost interest. He has attended a lot of banquets, nothing more than eating and drinking, touting each other, and wearing a suit very cautiously. He is not willing to go. UBA5TARD, do you know who held the banquet this time? It's ancient. The whole of Horrendal has gone. You show me well this time. In the future, the Xiao family's property will be handed over to you. Don't lose me, Xiao Yan slapped Jordan's head and said. When he heard that it was an ancient banquet, Jordan didn't dare to say anything, and hurriedly changed his clothes, but he broke an arm, and Jordan himself couldn't change it at all. Where's your girlfriend? Where did she go when she's not here to take care of you? Let her change it for you. At 11 o'clock at the Regal Hotel, don't be late for me. I have other things to do. After Xiao Yan finished speaking, he left. Jordan looked at the time and didn't dare to delay. He called Delia and called Delia back directly. At 10:30 at noon, the entire Regal Hotel was full of luxury cars, and people with dignity in the political and business circles arrived early. They greeted each other one by one, then took the invitations in their hands and walked into the hotel one after another. However, those accompanying family members could only wait outside the hotel. The reason why Gu Wenchen only invited the helmsman of each family or department for this banquet was to reduce the number of people at the banquet. He was afraid that there would be too many people and it would make a mess, and David was annoyed. Jordan also came with one arm on his back, while Delia supported him. Seeing so many bigwigs at the scene, Delia's heart almost jumped out of excitement. You stand here for me, don't make trouble for me, this time it's not ordinary people. Xiao Yan exhorted Jordan. Dad, I'm not going in. Jordan was stunned and called him, but he was not allowed in. Nonsense, this banquet invites all the heads of households or leaders at all levels, what qualifications do you have? Xiao Yan glared at Jordan and said. Jordan suddenly became a little unhappy, don't let me in, why do you call me here? I'll be sunburned to death. Listening to Jordan's words, Xiao Yan really wanted to give him 2 kicks. There are so many people waiting outside. Could it be that these are all fools? This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. It is always good for the development of our company to make more friends, but it is a pity that Jordan will eat, drink, and have fun, regardless of other things. Remember, if I can't see you when I come out, I will cut off your pocket money for half a year. Xiao Yan threatened Jordan. He was really afraid that Jordan would run back if he was unhappy. Hearing that half a year's pocket money was cut off, Jordan shuddered in fright and nodded again and again, I'm not leaving, I'll stay here. Xiao Yan walked into the hotel with confidence. Jordan and Delia could only bask in the sun at the door. At this time, David and Sonia also arrived. Wait for me here, I'll make arrangements, and we'll sneak in through the back door in a while. After getting off the car, Sonia said to David. David nodded. Sonia went to arrange it, while David stood there a little bored. These people came from the upper class, and David didn't know any of them, so he could only play with his mobile phone in a boring way. The sharp-eyed Delia saw David at a glance. Seeing that David was unattended and playing with her mobile phone, Delia sneered suddenly. Brother Lei, isn't that David? Is he worthy of attending the banquet? Delia whispered to Jordan. Chapter 43. Jordan looked at it and saw that it was David. A cold light flashed in his eyes and walked over. Seeing this, Delia hurriedly followed, staring at David with resentment in her eyes. Delia still remembers the scene in the mall just now. David, are you even worthy of coming here? Do you know what kind of people are here? Jordan looked at David with an air of arrogance. When you wear new clothes, you think you are you high class? David gave Jordan a cold look, but did not take care of him. David, what about the frenzied appearance in the mall? What about your beautiful Miss Sue? Why didn't she take you in? Can't she even get in by herself? Bah! Delia spat fiercely again. David took a sip. This time Jordan was there. She couldn't believe it and dared to let her wipe it off. David's face was slightly cold. Remember, I will make you lick it off like a dog in a while. Ha ha ha, bah! Delia laughed and spit again. Who do you think you are? And let me lick it off for you. Aren't you a prisoner of labor reform? What's amazing? Everyone, take a look. A labor prisoner even dressed like a dog and wanted to go to a banquet, and he didn't take a piss to take care of himself. Delia shouted, attracting many people to watch. David looked indifferent, quietly watching Delia's hard-working performance. Jordan, who is this person? Look at the face. At this time, a young man of the same age as Jordan asked. You must know that the people who come here are all people with heads and faces in Horrendal, or family members, who know or have met each other. But looking at David's face, he didn't look like someone from the upper-class circle, so someone asked Jordan curiously. He is my girlfriend's ex-boyfriend. He was my girlfriend's licking dog for 3 years, and he didn't even pull his hand. Later, I got him into prison and served 3 years in prison. It was just 2 days ago. From Jordan explained with a sneer. Jordan said this, and the people around him cast contempt at David. People with noble status like them disdained to stand with David, a prisoner of reform through labor. Everyone avoided David far away, whispering and sarcastic, but David looked indifferent, as if he hadn't heard it. David, you have a thick skin in the prison. You are already like this. Do you still have the face to stay here? Seeing that David didn't seem to care, Delia said with a cold expression. David. At this moment, Sonia had already made arrangements and walked over. When she saw Delia and Jordan, she frowned. What are you two doing here? Of course we are here for the banquet. Delia said proudly. With Jordan by her side, she doesn't need to be afraid of Sonia. Pfft! Sonia laughed when she heard it. Why don't you go in at the banquet? Is there no invitation, so you won't be allowed in at all? Delia opened her mouth, but didn't say anything, because they really couldn't get in without an invitation. Seeing Delia's deflated appearance, Sonia raised the corner of her mouth slightly, took David's hand and said, Come on, let's go in. Seeing that Sonia and David were going in, Delia was taken aback. Do you have invitations? I won't tell you. Sonia said with a proud smile. Delia was about to die of anger, but when she saw Sonia and David walking towards the back door, she immediately reacted, Brother Lay, they are planning to sneak in from the back, and they have no invitations. Jordan also found out, and hurriedly stepped forward to stop David and Sonia. You two don't have invitations, how can you sneak in through the back door? I want to report you. Jordan, are you a slacker? This regal hotel belongs to our family. I can enter wherever I like. I jump in from the window, can you control it? Sonia glanced at Jordan and said with a look of evil. Jordan was suddenly choked and had nothing to say. You guys take good care of the two of them. If they dare to enter through the back door, call me out. Sonia told several security guards. Got it, miss. Several security guards directly stared at Delia and Jordan. Sonia dragged David into the hotel through the back door, and looking at the backs of the two, Jordan and Delia stomped their feet angrily. Chapter 44. After David entered the hotel, he sent a message to Lin Tianhu, asking Lin Tianhu to drive Xiao Yan away. He didn't want to sit and eat with the Xiao family, and he didn't want the Xiao family to know too much about his identity. Let's see how long Jordan and Delia can jump. Inside the hotel, everyone surrounded Gu Wenchen with respect, and some people knew that Gu Wenchen likes to collect antiques, so they searched everywhere, and then came to give it to Gu Wenchen. Beside Gu Wenchen, a burly middle-aged man with a grim face is always vigilant. This person is Gu Wenchen's personal bodyguard Tang Long, who once retired from the Dragon Squadron and once Gu Wenchen was still in power. At that time, he would protect himself closely. Now that Gu Wenchen has retreated, Tang Long has also retreated, protecting Gu Wenchen's safety all the time. As long as Gu Wenchen attends public occasions, he will always take Tang Long by his side to protect his own safety. Everyone, I am entertaining you today. One is not to receive gifts, and the other is not to talk about things. I just want to introduce a new friend to you. You don't have to be too cautious. Gu Wenchen waved his hand to make everyone quiet, and then said loudly. In fact, many people have heard about it for a long time, but now that Gu Wenchen said it again, everyone couldn't help but be surprised. They didn't know what kind of terrifying background the person introduced by Gu Wenchen would have. Not so much fanfare. Why hasn't Mr. Chen come yet? Gu Wenchen looked at the time and asked Lin Tianhu beside him. Maybe soon. Lin Tianhu didn't know why David hadn't arrived yet, but he said it well yesterday. As soon as Lin Tianhu finished speaking, the phone rang. Seeing that it was David's message, Lin Tianhu gave Gu Wenchen a look at the message. Gu Wenchen looked at the message and nodded slightly. No wonder Mr. Chen hasn't shown up yet, so that's what happened. I didn't think it through. After Gu Wenchen finished speaking, he glanced at Xiao Yan who was not far away. At this time, Xiao Yan was also waiting for the young man Gu Wenchen said to appear. The person who could be so important to Gu Wenchen was definitely not an ordinary person. If they can cling to such a person, the Xiao family might be able to surpass the Sui family. Just as Xiao Yan was thinking, Gu Wenchen looked at him and said, Boss Xiao, Gu. When Xiao Yan heard this, he hurriedly stepped forward. What is Gu's order? Today's banquet, you are not suitable to attend, go back. In front of everyone, Gu Wenchen directly ordered Xiao Yan to evict him. When Xiao Yan heard this, he was stunned and looked at Gu Wenchen in disbelief. Ancient, but Gu Wenchen didn't wait for Xiao Yan to finish speaking, he directly waved his hand, see off the guest. Seeing this, Xiao Yan was very surprised, but he couldn't stay here any longer, so he could only helplessly turn around and leave. This time, everyone speculated that the Xiao family had offended Gu. At this time, Sonia had sneaked in with David, and the two of them were watching secretly in a corner. Let's hide first, the banquet will start in a while, and we are going out, so that it will not be easy to be discovered. Sonia sneaked her head out and looked at it and said. Why do you hide? Since you're in, it would be nice to go out generously. After David finished speaking, he went straight out. Sonia was startled and hurried forward to pull David, but she didn't hold back. Coming. After seeing David, Lin Tianhu said happily. Gu Wenchen raised his eyes and saw David coming, his expression suddenly brightened, and he quickly walked towards David. At this time, Reuben, who was in the crowd, saw David appear, and Gu Wenchen walked towards David, and suddenly broke out in a cold sweat. This was what he asked Sonia to sneak into David. If Gu Wenchen knew about it now, would it still be worth it? Chapter 45. Reuben quickly walked to the front, winked desperately at David, told David to leave quickly, and then stopped Gu Wenchen. Gu, this person is a waiter in our hotel, he should go the wrong way, run, come here. Sonia had already caught up with David at this time, dragged David and left, and said, how do you work? Don't look at the road, come here. Wait a minute. Gu Wenchen called out to Sonia directly. Sonia stopped, and then let go of David in her hands. Gu, it was my poor arrangement that let the servants break in, and I will give Gu an explanation later. Reuben broke out in a cold sweat, for fear that Gu Wenchen would be angry. Gu Wenchen was stunned. You said that Mr. Chen is a servant of your family. Yeah. Reuben nodded, but was quickly taken aback. Chen, Mr. Chen. Reuben didn't understand. How did Gu Wenchen know that David's surname was Chen? Why do you still call Mr. Yes, my banquet this time is mainly to invite Mr. Chen, you are just to accompany, Gu Wenchen nodded. This time, Reuben and Sonia were a little stunned and couldn't figure out what was going on. Ancient, hope I'm not too late. David took 2 steps forward and smiled slightly. Mr. Chen came at the right time. I don't know this is. Gu Wenchen pointed at Sonia behind David and asked. Ancient, this is the little girl, she is friends with Mr. Chen. Reuben is indeed an old man who has been in the mall for a long time, and he reacted immediately. When Gu Wenchen heard this, he immediately laughed. Heroes and beautiful women are the perfect match in the world. After Gu Wenchen said this, the others praised David and Sonia one after another. Sonia blushed so brightly that she didn't dare to look up. Mr. Chen, please take your seat, I've been waiting for you for a long time. Lin Tianhu stepped forward and followed David in a gesture of invitation. David was also not polite, and walked straight to the main seat. A group of people swarmed around David. Although they didn't know who David was, what they could know was that David would definitely be a powerful person in Horrendal in the future. Figure. Gu Wenchen and Lin Tianhu are both such respectful people, and they are also the son-in-law of the richest man, the Sui family. Who would dare to offend such a person? Reuben and Sonia looked at each other and followed. After David was seated, Gu Wenchen sat beside David, while the other side was empty. No one dared to do it. Miss Su, this place is reserved for you, you two should sit together. Gu Wenchen waved after Sonia with a smile on his face. Sonia blushed and sat beside David shyly. Sonia's next position was Reuben. Originally, it was supposed to be for Lin Tianhu, but now if David and Sonia are boyfriend and girlfriend, then Reuben is David's. Old man, Lin Tianhu dare not sit on top of Reuben. After everyone was seated, Gu Wenchen picked up a glass of wine and said to David, Mr. Chen, this first glass of wine, I will be the first to salute you. Gu Wenchen knew very well that after he had toasted the first cup of wine, he would not need to take care of the rest of the matter. None of the people sitting here would know what to do. Old polite. David picked up the glass and drank it lightly. Just when David put down his wine glass, Gu Wenchen was suddenly stunned, because he saw that David's brand new suit was actually spat on. Mr. Chen, your clothes are, Gu Wenchen pointed at the spittle on David's clothes and asked. This is when I was outside and was spat twice by someone with no quality. David said lightly. Who is so bold to spit Mr. Chen? Gu Wenchen's face was angry, his eyes swept to everyone present. You must know that those people outside are sitting on the family members brought by these people, so Gu Wenchen will look at the people present. At this time, everyone's heart suddenly bulged, and their hearts continued to bless, hoping that it wasn't their own family who did it. Chapter 46. Ancient, it was the girlfriend of Jordan, the son-in-law of the Xiao family. That woman used to be Mr. Chen's girlfriend, and now she is next to the Xiao family. She feels like a superior person, so she spat at Mr. Chen. Sonia said. The Xiao family, you are really brave, I will call that Xiao Yan to ask now. Gu Wenchen frowned and slapped the table fiercely. He also knew why David sent a message to drive that Xiao Yan away. It turned out that there was such a festival with the Xiao family. And the people present also understood in an instant. This time they knew that the Xiao family was going to be unlucky. It seems that the business dealings with the Xiao family should be cut off quickly. Ancient, calm down, this kind of trivial matter, I can handle it myself. David smiled lightly, not paying attention at all. At this time, Jordan and Delia were like ants in his eyes. Outside the hotel, the poisonous sunlight made Jordan a little upset. Brother Lei, drink some water. Delia handed Jordan a bottle of water. Jordan took a big gulp, rubbed the sweat on his forehead, and muttered softly, I can't go in, what are you waiting for here? I'm really sick. Although he complained, Jordan did not dare to leave. He was really afraid that his father would cut off his pocket money for half a year. Just when Jordan was drinking water, he found that his father came out of the hotel. Jordan was overjoyed and hurriedly said, My dad is out, we must be able to go in. Jordan and Delia hurriedly greeted him. Dad, why did you come out? Can we go in now? Jordan asked excitedly. Go in the F.Art, I've been kicked out, Xiao Yan said angrily. Jordan was stunned for a moment, and then said, Dad, what's going on? Why did you drive you out? How would I know? Xiao Yan glared at Jordan angrily, Don't be ashamed here, go back with me. He came in a hurry, and now he can only go back in despair. Jordan and Delia didn't even go in the door. The banquet has already started, and after about 2 hours, the banquet is coming to an end. Everyone's face is red and the conversation is very happy. David, when did you meet Gu? And Gu was so polite to you. You are the protagonist of this banquet, and you didn't even tell me. Finally, Sonia seized the opportunity, pulled David aside, and asked very dissatisfied. At that time, you took me away in a hurry, and you didn't say that you came to the banquet? I found out later, and I wanted to surprise you. David laughed. Your surprise is really big, I was scared to death at the time, you are so bad, you can't hide anything from me in the future. Sonia punched David in the chest, the force was very light, it was completely flirtatious. David grabbed Sonia's hand, and the two looked at each other. No words, no communication, only eye contact. David slowly approached Sonia. Sonia wanted to hide, but did not move, her heart was very contradictory. Seeing that David was about to kiss, Sonia closed her eyes and waited for that moment to come. You got something on your face. But just as Sonia was nervously waiting for that moment, David suddenly said such a sentence. Sonia opened her eyes and saw David looking at herself with a wicked smile. Damn, I'm ignoring you, Sonia punched David fiercely and ran away blushing. At this time, Reuben watched his daughter run away with a blushing face, also smiled slightly, and walked towards David. Mr. Chen, do you have any plans for your future? Do you want to start your own company? Reuben asked David. David immediately shook his head, I don't want to. David wants to cultivate now and improve his strength as soon as possible. As for starting a company and doing business, David really doesn't like it, nor is he good at it. Chapter 47. Seeing David shaking his head so happily, Reuben was stunned for a moment, but he quickly smiled and said, That's okay, this girl Sonia doesn't look like a girl, but she is very good at running a company and doing business, just have her. After Reuben finished speaking, he left. David looked at Reuben's back and smiled helplessly. He could understand what Reuben thought. After all, he is only Sonia's daughter. In the future, all business will be handed over to Sonia. If he and Sonia really come together, such a large business will always need someone to support him. Soon, everyone was full and ready to leave, saying goodbye to each other. But at this moment, the door of the banquet was suddenly pushed open, and then dozens of people broke in, all of them holding weapons. Seeing these people who suddenly broke in, everyone present was shocked, but Gu Wenshan's face turned cold, and Tang Long, the bodyguard beside him, rushed directly to his waist and pulled out a half-foot-long machete, guarding Gu Wenshan. In front of you. Security, where's the security? Seeing someone rushing in, Reuben shouted loudly, but no security guard came in. Mr. Su, don't shout, none of your security guards can get in. The visitor said coldly. Feng Sihai, you suddenly brought someone in, what do you want to do? You must know that this is a banquet prepared by the ancients. Reuben asked loudly. It turns out that these people are all members of the Along gang, and the leader is Feng Sihai. Feng Sihai walked quickly to Gu Wenshan, bowed and said, Gu, I don't mean to disturb, I just came to find Lin Tianhu. At this time, Lin Tianhu had already clenched his fists, and as soon as Feng Sihai entered the door, he knew he was here for him. Jiuyatang and Along gang are mortal enemies, and the two are also deadly enemies, but for the time being, no one can do anything to the other. Usually, Lin Tianhu would bring many brothers to attend meetings, but this time around Gu Wenshan, Lin Tianhu was a little careless and didn't bring his subordinates. Another reason was that David was there, so Lin Tianhu was relieved. This Feng Sihai must have received the news, so he brought people here. As long as Lin Tianhu is killed, Jiuyatang will be headless, and will soon be annexed by the Along gang. I don't care who you are looking for, but can you break into my banquet at will? Gu Wenshan asked with a cold face. Ancient, as I said, I was just looking for Lin Tianhu to settle accounts, and breaking in was a last resort. Feng Sihai said respectfully. BA5 Tard. Gu Wenshan suddenly slapped the table, are you trying to go against me? Ancient, I don't want to fight against you, but I also don't want to let Lin Tianhu go. This kind of opportunity is a rare opportunity. Besides, for such an important banquet in ancient times, only Lin Tianhu was invited, but Feng Sihai was not invited. This is obviously because I don't like my Along. Help! Feng Sihai said, neither humble nor arrogant, obviously because Gu Wenshan didn't invite him. The reason why Gu Wenshan didn't invite Feng Sihai at that time was because the hatred between him and Lin Tianhu was too deep and it was not convenient to come here. Feng Sihai, are you? Gu Wenshan's face flushed with anger when he saw that Feng Sihai was not giving face. But before he could finish speaking, Lin Tianhu stood up and said, the husband does everything alone, and since you came after me, let's compare. After Lin Tianhu finished speaking, he immediately took a stance, ready to respond to Feng Sihai's attack at any time. There is a kind, then I will kill you today and take your Jiuyatang into the bag. Feng Sihai said, striding towards Lin Tianhu. Chapter 48 Presumptuous. Gu Wenshan slapped the table fiercely, and his whole body was full of anger. Everyone present was frightened by Gu Wenshan's anger. Tang Long, who was beside Gu Wenshan, saw Gu Wenshan's anger, he jumped up and landed firmly in front of Lin Tianhu. Feng Sihai, don't give the old face, you are courting death. Tang Long burst out with a strong fighting spirit, and the bones on his body were crackling. Feng Sihai stopped attacking, frowned, and looked at Tang Long. Tang Long, if you fight to the death today, you may not be able to beat me, not to mention that I still have dozens of subordinates. Humph, whether you can win or not, you will only know if you try. Tang Long snorted coldly and took a stand. Ancient, I didn't want to be an enemy of you, but you keep pushing me, and I'm not easy to mess with the Along gang. It's a big deal, and no one here will want to go out alive. A cold glow flashed in Feng Sihai's eyes, and it seemed that he had already made desperate preparations. Gu Wenshan's face was flushed, and his whole body was trembling slightly by Feng Sihai's anger. No one in Horrendal did not give him face, but today Feng Sihai has made him lose face. However, looking at the dozens of murderous subordinates behind Feng Sihai, Gu Wenshan was also a little embarrassed. Feng Sihai had come prepared, he was going to get into trouble, things were really not easy to handle. Ancient, let me and Feng Sihai make a break today, you all don't care. Lin Tianhu saw that Gu Wenshan was in a dilemma, and after speaking, he took the initiative to attack Feng Sihai. Lin Tianhu punched out, with a whistling sound, extremely fast, and his strength exploded to the extreme. He knew that fighting with Feng Sihai could not have the slightest reservation. When Feng Sihai saw that Lin Tianhu actually took the initiative to attack, his face suddenly sneered, he did not dodge or dodge, facing Lin Tianhu's punch. Bang! Lin Tianhu smashed Feng Sihai's chest with a punch, and a huge counterattack caused Lin Tianhu to step back 3 steps, but Feng Sihai didn't move at all, not even injured at all. Lin Tianhu's face was a little pale, and he looked at Feng Sihai in horror. At this time, Feng Sihai's strength has increased a lot. Ha ha ha, Lin Tianhu, your punch is like tickling, don't stop, keep hitting. Feng Sihai raised his head and laughed loudly, not taking Lin Tianhu into his eyes at all. Lin Tianhu is also considered a hero, and he can't stand Feng Sihai's public humiliation and provocation. After shouting angrily, he walked towards Feng Sihai again, but this time Lin Tianhu grabbed a solid wood stool. Wow! The stool slammed into Feng Sihai's body, and instantly shattered, while Feng Sihai was still standing lightly, not moving. Lin Tianhu, my hard qigong has been completed, you can't hurt me, now it's my turn. After Feng Sihai finished speaking, he kicked at Lin Tianhu. Lin Tianhu couldn't dodge, and was kicked out by Feng Sihai. A mouthful of blood spurted out and fell to the ground. The severe pain made Lin Tianhu's face extremely hideous. Looking at Lin Tianhu's appearance, David frowned and was about to get up, but was stopped by Sonia. Don't be arrogant, this guy seems to be very good at fighting, you are not necessarily an opponent. Sonia is afraid that David can't beat Feng Sihai and is injured. She still doesn't know the relationship between David and Lin Tianhu. No matter how powerful Feng Sihai is, David will not sit idly by. Before David could do anything, Gu Wenshan said, Tang Long, teach him a lesson. Tang Long nodded, clenched his fists, and rushed directly to Feng Sihai. In the face of Tang Long's attack, Feng Sihai will not be so relaxed, and he will not dare to stand and let others hit him. You must know that Tang Long's punch, whether it is strength or speed, is stronger than Lin Tianhu, and has reached the extreme. Chapter 49 Feng Sihai turned sideways, dodging Tang Long's punch, and after dodging Tang Long, Feng Sihai did not take action, but looked at Gu Wenshan and said, Gu, I said that I don't want to be your enemy, you really do you want to force me? Gu Wenshan's face was gloomy and he didn't speak. And that Tang Long was so easily escaped by Feng Sihai, he suddenly felt that his face was completely lost, and he said angrily, Stop talking nonsense, take the trick. Tang Long swung his fist backwards and threw it directly at Feng Sihai. If this punch hits, his brains will be thrown out. Feng Sihai's eyes narrowed, and his face was also angrily said, if that's the case, then I'm welcome. After finishing speaking, Feng Sihai, a catcher, grabbed Tang Long's wrist directly, and then swung it towards Tang Long with a left hook. Tang Long was startled, his head turned slightly to the side, and then kicked out, trying to force Feng Sihai back. But Feng Sihai didn't hide, and let Tang Long kick him in the chest. The huge anti-shock force made Tang Long's body directly fly out. Tang Long managed to stabilize his body, but looking at the surprised expressions of the people around him, he suddenly burst into anger. Feng Sihai, today must be divided between you and me. With that said, Tang Long charged towards Feng Sihai again. Stop! Just as Tang Long rushed towards Feng Sihai, a figure suddenly appeared in front of Tang Long and stopped Tang Long directly. You are not his opponent, and it is meaningless to fight, I will come. David stopped Tang Long and said. Tang Long felt a burst of humiliation, and said sternly, let's go, with your physique, I'm afraid that one punch will kill you. At this time, Tang Long had already lost his mind, and he even spoke rudely to David. He had forgotten the identity of David. That was an existence that even Gu Wenchen respected. However, Tang Long has not seen David's ability, so in his heart, he does not have much respect for David, just because of Gu Wenchen's face. The way of martial arts is gradually advancing. David is only a young man in his early 20s. Even if he learns martial arts from his mother's womb, how powerful can he be? Shut up, BA5TARD, you dare to be disrespectful to Mr. Chen. Gu Wenchen immediately reprimanded Tang Long when he saw that Tang Long had spoken unkindly to David. You must know that Gu Wenchen seldom taught Tang Long, and never regarded Tang Long as a servant, but today Tang Long actually said David, how could Gu Wenchen dare to let him have his temper? Tang Long closed his mouth, but he didn't have much respect for David in his eyes. What he was afraid of was Gu Wenchen, not David. At this time, Sonia also came up, pulled David and said, don't be rude, don't you see that even Lin Tianhu and Tang Long are not opponents? You are a medical student, don't follow me. Sonia thought that David only knew medical skills and nothing else. Today is such a suitable occasion, I should show it well, otherwise, how can I be a poor boy like you, the eldest daughter of gold? When Sonia heard this, her face suddenly became shy. This was the first time David said such a thing in public. Wouldn't that be the same as confessing to her? I don't care what you look like, I just don't let you take risks. Sonia took David's arm and prevented David from doing it. Hurry up and step back, your fists and feet have no eyes, it's not your time to be brave. Seeing that David came up to show himself, Tang Long said with a look of disdain. After speaking, Tang Long jumped up again and attacked Feng Sihai. Hey, it's said that you are not an opponent, but you are beaten up, you are really stubborn. David shook his head helplessly. Stop talking, go back. Sonia pulled David to sit back again. Tang Long jumped up this time, but just as he moved forward, he was kicked on the chest by Feng Sihai, and blood overflowed from the corner of his mouth. Gu Wenchen and the people present watched this scene, each and everyone was shocked. Chapter 50. Tang Long's face was also hot. He could clearly feel that Feng Sihai didn't use all his strength, but as Gu Wenchen's personal bodyguard, and in front of so many people, Tang Long's face really had no place to rest. Now he would rather be beaten to death by Feng Sihai than admit defeat. You must know that people who practice martial arts regard their face as more important than their lives. If he admits defeat today, his reputation in the future of Tang Long will also stink. I am afraid that he will not want to mix in the circle in the future. Gu Wenchen will not be there either. Use him. Feng Sihai, use all your strength. I can die today, but I must not lose. After Tang Long finished speaking, his face became flushed, and his body began to slowly swell up. Storm Fist, Tang Long let out a loud shout, and his bulging body seemed to be deflated in an instant, and it recovered as before, but Tang Long's body rushed out like a cannonball. Feng Sihai frowned, it seems that you won't give up if you don't show the trick. Feng Sihai squatted slightly with his legs, and cracks appeared on the marble floor under his feet, but Feng Sihai's clothes rose automatically without wind. I fought with you. Tang Long's eyes began to turn a little scarlet, and he punched Feng Sihai fiercely. Bang! The huge sound, like thunder in the sky, made everyone cover their ears. Feng Sihai didn't move, he didn't even shake his figure, let alone injured. Tang Long was stunned for a moment, but then the rainstorm-like fist fell on Feng Sihai. Bang bang bang! It's almost there. Feng Sihai finished speaking and punched out. Bang! The two fists collided, and Tang Long's body flew out instantly, hitting the ground heavily, and he couldn't get up for a while. This time, everyone was dumbfounded, and Gu Wenchen also grew his mouth in shock. Lin Tianhu's body trembled slightly. He did not expect Feng Sihai's strength to be so strong. Lin Tianhu, who was trembling in his heart, secretly set his eyes on David. Now, I am afraid that only David can hold down that Feng Sihai. Tang Long, who fell to the ground, tried his best to get up, but he failed twice. You, who did you learn your hard qigong from? Tang Long asked in shock. Ye Feng Chun, do you know each other? Feng Sihai stood up straight and said. Hearing this name, Tang Long's face suddenly changed greatly, he looked very afraid, and Lin Tianhu's body was shaking like a sieve. Obviously this person, they both know each other, and they are amazing. However, the others did not respond, apparently unfamiliar with this name. Yet? Who is Master Yet? Tang Long asked. That's my master, and I learned this hard qigong from him. As soon as Feng Sihai's voice fell, Tang Long suddenly looked depressed, sighed and shook his head slightly. No wonder I'm not your opponent, it turns out that you have already apprenticed to Master Yet, I admit defeat. Tang Long actually conceded defeat. He, who was going to work hard, conceded defeat when he heard the words Ye Feng Chun. David frowned slightly, looked at Lin Tianhu and said, Who is this Ye Feng Chun? Mr. Chen, Ye Feng Chun is a master of ancient martial arts with very strong internal strength. No one knows his true strength. I heard that Master Yet is now able to pick leaves and hurt people. When Lin Tianhu talked about Ye Feng Chun, his heart was still full of lingering fears. Pickling leaves hurts people. David smiled slightly, is that so? David said, picked up a toothpick, flicked his fingers, and the toothpick instantly shot at Feng Sihai. Feng Sihai didn't have time to react at all, he was instantly hit by a toothpick on his arm, and only a small section of the whole toothpick was still exposed. Chapter 51 Who attacked me? Feng Sihai fiercely pulled out the toothpick and roared loudly. However, in the depths of Feng Sihai's eyes, there is a trace of fear. Although his hard qigong cannot be invulnerable, even if an ordinary person has a sharp weapon, he may not be able to break through his hard qigong. But now a small toothpick actually stabbed directly into his arm, which surprised Feng Sihai a little. He didn't expect that there are masters hidden among these people. Everyone looked at each other, no one knew who moved the hand. Only Lin Tianhu looked at David in surprise, with admiration in his eyes. It's me. David takes a step forward. You. Feng Sihai looked at David and frowned slightly. David is only in his early 20s, how could a young man have such strength? David, you, don't be too arrogant, it's not him. Sonia was shocked and hurriedly brought David back. Miss Su, Mr. Chen will be fine, you don't have to panic. Lin Tianhu stopped Sonia. Boy, you have to pay the price of your life for showing off. Do you want to stand up for Lin Tianhu? Feng Sihai asked in a cold voice. Don't talk nonsense, if you want to do it, hurry up, I'm very busy. David said expressionlessly. At this time, David actually began to have a layer of light mist all over his body. This is the gathering of the surrounding aura, and then a hard protection is formed around David's body. Except for Sonia desperately calling for David to come back, no one is discouraging David. All these people wanted to see if David really had the ability to make Gu Wenchen respect him so much. Court death. A cold light flashed in Feng Sihai's eyes, and he rushed towards David in an instant. Feng Sihai's speed was very fast, like a flash of lightning reaching David in an instant, and then a fist as big as a sandbag swung towards David. At this time, David looked at Feng Sihai calmly. Facing the swift and violent punch, David seemed to have never heard of it. Ah! Seeing this, Sonia exclaimed, no. But Feng Sihai didn't stop at all, and punched David's chest fiercely. Bang! This punch is full of hundreds of pounds of power, even a horse, I am afraid that under this punch, it will die. But the strange scene found that David's body, which was only more than 100 jins, did not move under this punch, but Feng Sihai's arms were strangely bent. The huge anti-vibration force caused Feng Sihai's arm to break directly, and the white bones of the forest penetrated the skin and were exposed. What? Feng Sihai cried out in pain, looking at his broken arm with disbelief. You can also harden Qigong? Feng Sihai asked with a twisted face. No, a little, it's just fur. David sneered. However, no one would believe David's words. How could a hard Qigong that even Feng Sihai couldn't break through? Sonia opened her mouth wide and saw that David was fine, her eyes were full of surprises. At this moment, David was much taller in her eyes, and the love in her heart increased. Who do you learn from? Why does my master, Ye Feng Chun's unique hard Qigong, do you too? Feng Sihai was a little puzzled, who did David learn hard Qigong from? I have no sect, and I am not a hard Qigong. The so-called hard Qigong is just a trick to deceive people. David smiled lightly and punched Feng Sihai in the chest. Feng Sihai spurted out a mouthful of blood and flew out. David is not a hard Qigong, he is the method of cultivating immortals, not to mention Feng Sihai's punch, even a bullet can't penetrate David's shield. Chapter 52 Feng Sihai looked at David in horror, the shock in his heart was beyond words. With David's punch, Feng Sihai found that his hard Qigong was useless. Brother, if you can leave your name as taboo, I will come back to Feng Sihai to ask for advice another day. Feng Sihai knew that he was not David's opponent, and there was no point in fighting. Feng Sihai would definitely withdraw first. Feng Sihai, do you want to leave? Tell you, Mr. Chen is here today, and this is your burial place. Lin Tianhu looked at Feng Sihai proudly. Feng Sihai's expression changed, and he looked at David with fear. If David really killed him, he might not be able to leave today. My name is David Chen, you can ask me for revenge at any time. If you don't agree, you can call your master. David knew what Feng Sihai meant and smiled coldly. Mr. Chen, you can't let the tiger go back to the mountain. Seeing that David really wanted to let Feng Sihai go, Lin Tianhu immediately persuaded him. I have my own measure, you step back. David frowned slightly. Seeing that David was going to be angry, Lin Tianhe was too frightened to speak anymore, so he hurried back. Okay, I remember, the green hills are always there, the green water is always flowing, we will have a future. Feng Sihai wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and waved his hand towards his hand. Let's go. Feng Sihai took the people away, and there were only those people who attended the banquet left in the huge hall. Mr. Chen is really good at it, I really learned it today. Having such an ability at such a young age, Mr. Chen's future is immeasurable. Sure enough, a hero comes out of a boy. Everyone praised David. Gu Wenchen did not expect that David was able to exorcise ghosts and subdue demons, yet his martial arts was so strong, which made him pay more attention to David. Mr. Chen, forgive my ignorance, and I hope that Mr. Chen will not take offense. Tang Long came to David with a face full of shame and apologized. It's okay. David smiled slightly, but he didn't take it to heart. At this time, Reuben looked at David and couldn't help but smile. He now raised his hands in agreement with Sonia and David. You know Kung Fu, and you don't say anything in advance, I'll worry about you for a long time. Sonia pretended to be angry and walked in front of David, and then twisted David's arm. Hey, David frowned, showing great pain, it hurts. Sonia was stunned when she looked at David like that. I'm not exerting any strength? Why does it hurt? Sonia was a little panicked. I was injured by Feng Sihai just now, and I have been holding on, but you are still screwing me. David pretended to be in pain, and looked at Sonia with complaints in his eyes. Where is the injury? Let me see, show me quickly. I don't know. Sonia looked at David's body in a panic, and looked like she was about to cry. Everyone around could see that David was pretending, even Reuben could see it, but he didn't say anything, but looked at the two of them quietly. Only Sonia didn't realize that David was pretending because she was too concerned. Okay, as soon as you touch me, my injury is healed. David was about to cry when he saw Sonia, so he stopped making trouble with her. As soon as Sonia heard it, she immediately understood that she had been deceived. Okay, David, I'll kill you. Sonia raised a fist at David, and David ran away quickly. Seeing the two sparring, everyone laughed. Gu Wenchen patted Reuben on the shoulder. President Su, your Su family's future is limitless. Of course Reuben understood what Gu Wenchen meant, and quickly said modestly, we have to rely more on Gu to take care of him. I think it should be your Su family who will take care of me in the future. Gu Wenchen laughed loudly. Chapter 53 Pine Bay Hilltop Villa. After Barbara and Chen Baoqiu walked around, they were sitting in the living room to rest. They never dreamed that they could live in such a luxurious house. Although the house is only for them to live in temporarily, they are lucky enough. It seems that God is not mean to our family. David has just been released from prison, and he can meet a good girl like Sonia. I don't know how the two met. Barbara said with a contented face. I don't know, but looking at Miss Su, she is a kind girl. Chen Baoqiu used to be a civil servant, and he has seen a lot of people of all kinds, so he is very accurate. You said that people are so rich, what do you like about David? Barbara has always been a little worried in the depths of her heart. After all, their family and others are simply wrong. But just when Chen Baoqiu was about to speak, a man in a suit and leather shoes suddenly pushed open the door and walked in. The man suddenly broke in, causing Chen Baoqiu to be stunned for a moment. Let me answer you, in fact, Sonia is just playing with David casually. Do you really think that the dignified Miss Su will take a fancy to your David? Don't daydream, you two don't think about it. What does your David have? He's just a poor boy who graduated from an ordinary university and has been in prison. If it was your daughter who fell in love with this kind of person, would you agree? It's just that your family's David saved Sonia's father by mistake. So Sonia is so enthusiastic to repay her kindness. Do you really think the two of them will get married? I'm Sonia's real boyfriend, and we've known each other for many years. The Green family and the Bamboo horses are in the same household. I advise you to give up early. Don't you know the virtues of your son? After the man finished speaking, he sneered at Chen Baoqiu and Barbara, his eyes full of ridicule and disdain. After Barbara and Chen Baoqiu heard the man's words, their faces turned red and then white, but they were speechless to refute. After all, what they said was the truth. Their family was just an ordinary family, and David was just an ordinary family. People, who have been in prison, who would want to marry their daughter to such a person. Seeing the reactions of Barbara and Chen Baoqiu, the man was very satisfied, and he took out a stack of money from his bag and threw it in front of the two of them. Take the money and move out of here quickly. If you wait for the time to drive you away, you can don't blame me for being ruthless. After the man finished speaking, he turned around and left, then got into a sports car outside the courtyard and walked away, leaving only Barbara and Chen Baoqiu sitting there blankly. The two seemed to be knocked down from the sky to the mortal world at once, and returned to reality. After a while, Chen Baoqiu sighed heavily, got up, and started to pack his things. They are not worthy of living here. Barbara's eyes were slightly red, and tears kept rolling in her eyes. Chen Baoqiu simply tidied up, stepped forward and patted Barbara on the shoulder lightly. Let's go, wait for David to come back, talk to him well, let him recognize the reality, he and Miss Su are not the same after all. Chen Baoqiu and Barbara left and returned to their original house. Barbara, I heard that you followed David to live in a big villa. Why are you back? Just returned to the original house, a middle-aged woman asked curiously. Her Aunt Wang, isn't she used to living here, so she moved back? Barbara heard that the other party was her old neighbor Wang Chongfeng, so she smiled awkwardly. This Wang Chongfeng is also not easy. When the child is in her teens, her husband dies, and she has brought her daughter up by herself. It's good to move back, our old neighbors can still chat. David just got out of prison, how can there be such a good thing? Let him live in the big villa, be careful not to let people use it. When the time comes, I will go in once. Life is ruined, Wang Chongfeng said indifferently. Although the words are not good, but they do not have bad thoughts, they belong to the kind of knife-mouthed tofu-hearted. Understood, Barbara smiled and nodded. Chapter 54 In the Regal Hotel. At this time, the banquet was over and everyone had already left. Gu Wenchen left David behind and said, Mr. Chen, you asked me to find the spirit pen and cinnabar, because it is true that the Taoist priest went out to ask for it. Doctor, it will take a while to come back. It's okay, you have been working hard. David said with a slight smile. My mother's eyes have been so long, I don't care about waiting a few more days. After all, this kind of thing can't be rushed. Mr. Chen, what are you talking about? In the future, as long as Mr. Chen is useful, just speak up. Gu Wenchen said boldly. After a few greetings, David planned to leave, but was stopped by Tang Long, and then Tang Long suddenly knelt down in front of David. Mr. Chen is talented, I hope Mr. Chen can accept me as a disciple. Tang Long just saw David's strength and wanted to defeat David as his teacher. David grabbed Tang Long's shoulders and lifted Tang Long with a little force. With my little ability, how can I be qualified to be a master? You think too highly of me. David practiced Fahu, and following Tang Long and the other warriors were not the same thing, so there was no way to teach him anything. Could it be that he had to be taught mentality? Mr. Chen, you, Tang Long, okay, since Mr. Chen said so, don't force it. Gu Wenchen stopped Tang Long, although Gu Wenchen himself is not a warrior, but he also understands some of the things inside. How can he easily teach others his own skills? Seeing this, Tang Long could only step aside and stop talking. Brother Tang, if you have anything, we can communicate and be your master, but I absolutely don't have the qualifications, David smiled apologetically. Thank you, Mr. Chen, Tang Long said with joy on his face. When David left the hotel and returned to the Pinarist villa, he found that his parents were not there. Taking out his mobile phone, David called his parents. When he learned that Chen Baoqiu and Barbara had returned to the original house, David hurried back. Dad, Mom, what are you doing here? Are you not used to living in Pine Bay? The air is better there and the environment is better, isn't it better than here? David asked in confusion. Chen Baoqiu glanced at David, didn't say anything, went straight into the bedroom, but Barbara sighed, David, you just got out of prison, don't always think about getting rich overnight. Sonia is a good girl, but you can't take this as a threat because you saved someone's father's life. You are not the same people, and it is impossible for you to come together. In the future, you can find a job in a down-to-earth way, and don't think about anything. Mom, did someone say something to you? David frowned slightly. Don't worry about it, I said, you don't have to deal with Sonia anymore, and the house in Pine Bay is still given to others, and your dad and I will not go there either. I don't ask you to be rich, you just need to find a good share. Work, just marry a daughter-in-law and pass on the lineage. Barbara's tone was a little heavy, and it looked like she was angry. Seeing that his mother was angry, David didn't dare to say anything, so he could only nod his head. Mom, I'll listen to you. Over the years, my mother has cried and blinded her eyes for herself. I don't know how much she has suffered. David doesn't want to make his mother angry anymore. Seeing David being so happy, he agreed. Tang Hong said in a softer tone, I asked your father to contact your uncle Zhang, go see tomorrow, and see if he can help you find a job. Han has also graduated. I heard that he has found a good job and earns a lot of money. You two have known each other since childhood. Although Barbara can't see with her eyes, she has always been thinking about big and small things in her heart. Chapter 55 What to say, if the two children agree, I have no opinion. After all, I also watched David grow up. It's not a problem for him to be imprisoned. At this time, Wang Chongfeng walked in with a large bowl. This is the sauce I made myself. You can try it, Aunt Wang. When David saw Wang Chongfeng walking in, he hurriedly reached out and took the bowl. Since David came to Horindal when he was a teenager, he has been a neighbor with Wang Changfeng's family, so the two have a very good relationship. Aunt Wang, you are too polite, Hanin's child. I have also grown up from childhood, sensible and beautiful. If our two families can really be AKSS, that would be great. Barbara got up and pulled Wang Chongfeng to sit down together. Barbara, my family Hanin really came to your house, and I'm relieved. After all, I'm just such a daughter, and I have to count on her when I'm old, so I don't want her to marry away. I'll call Hanin tonight, let her go home and let's have dinner together. Wang Chongfeng said happily. It can be seen that she is also very satisfied with David. Okay, but I heard that Hanin has found a good job and earns a lot of money. Barbara nodded happily. I earn a lot of money, but if I don't go home all day, it's hard for me to see her once, Wang Chongfeng said, picked up the phone and called his daughter. Soon the call was connected, and Wang Hanin's lazy voice came, "Mom, why are you calling me at this hour? I'm still sleeping." "You child, it's already afternoon, why are you still sleeping? Don't you have to go to work?" Wang Chongfeng was stunned. "Oh, I have to work overtime tonight, so take a nap in the afternoon, what's the matter?" Wang Hanin asked hurriedly. "Oh, your brother David has been released from prison. I want to tell you to go home at night, and let's have a meal together." Wang Chongfeng said. "Mom, I don't have time, wait a few days, these 2 days are too busy." After speaking, Wang Hanin hung up the phone. Wang Chongfeng looked a little embarrassed listening to the busy tone on the phone. He and Wang, since Hanin is too busy, let's change it another day, it's not worse than 1 or 2 days. Barbara was afraid that Wang Chongfeng would be angry, and hurriedly persuaded her. "Hey, now that the child is older, it's really not obedient at all," Wang Chongfeng sighed. Wang Chongfeng stayed at David's house until the evening, while David had nothing to do and planned to go out for a walk. At this moment, Lin Tianhe called and wanted to invite David to a meal. David was Lin Tianhe's boss at the scene. Of course, Lin Tianhe wanted to curry favor David. Originally David wanted to refuse, but after thinking about it, if he went home for dinner, Wang Chongfeng was still at their house, and it was estimated that they would have dinner together. At the dinner table, he would definitely nag him with his parents, so David said promised. Lin Tianhe wanted to pick up David, but David refused, took a taxi and headed towards the restaurant that Lin Tianhe said. In the past few years when David was imprisoned, Horndal developed very fast. There are dozens of bars and KTVs in a small city. At night, the bright neon lights flashed, and the streets were full of handsome men and beautiful women. Just when David's taxi passed a Fengjia bar, he suddenly saw a familiar figure, dressed in beautiful clothes, walking into the bar with a few girls. Wang Hanin. David frowned slightly. Calling in the afternoon, this Wang Hanin also said that he worked overtime at night. Why did he suddenly appear in the bar? Could it be that this Wang Hanin has been working in the bar? In order to find out, David stopped the taxi, and after paying the fare, he followed Wang Hanin all the way in. Chapter 56. At this time, the lights in the bar are very lively, and the flashing lights make people feel dizzy. David saw that Wang Hanin followed a few girls into the bar, and was taken directly behind by 2 waiters. When David wanted to follow him, he was stopped. "Sir, I'm sorry, this is our backstage, guests can't enter." David glanced inside and found that Wang Hanin was no longer there, so he found a corner and sat down. He wanted to see what Wang Hanin was doing here. Soon, Wang Hanin and a few girls came out, but at this time, they were only wearing S3XY underwear, and a large amount of snow-white skin was exposed. Several people walked quickly to the stage in the middle of the bar, and in an instant, several strong lights hit a few girls, making the people in the bar instantly boil, shouting and whistling. Wang Hanin and a few girls twisted their bodies, and it could be seen that Wang Hanin's movements were still a little stiff, not as flexible as other girls, but Wang Hanin was also twisting hard, trying to squeeze a smile on his face. Others could also see Wang Hanin's jerkiness, and they all set their sights on Wang Hanin, and some even picked up the money and threw it at Wang Hanin. David frowned and looked at Wang Hanin on the stage. He couldn't believe his eyes. He never imagined that Wang Hanin, who had always been shy and well-behaved, would come to the bar and become a dancer. Looking at the money on the stage, Wang Hanin kept bending over to pick it up, and then stuffed it into his chest. Under the stage, a group of men with red eyes were staring at Wang Hanin's body, like hungry wolves. Seeing this, David got up and walked to the edge of the stage. After taking out a stack of banknotes, he threw them directly on the stage. There were thousands of dollars. Seeing that someone had lost so much money, Wang Hanan immediately smiled, "Thank you, big brother," but when Wang Hanan's eyes touched David's, Wang Hanan's body shook slightly, and the expression on his face became obviously unnatural. Withdrawing his eyes hastily, Wang Hanan pretended not to see David, bent down and hurriedly picked up all the money, and then still twisted on the stage, but there was no smile on his face. David's actions caused many people to look over, but after seeing David dressed in ordinary clothes and covered with street goods, all of them showed sarcastic smiles. "Dude, with your outfit, I'm afraid you won't be able to surpass 200 yuan, right? You can't control the little girl on this side, so let's go quickly. You can't earn a few thousand yuan a month, and you'll have to pay for it in a while. It's still on here." At this time, a middle-aged man patted David on the shoulder and said. David ignored him, but looked at Wang Hanan with his eyes fixed. He couldn't understand, can a person really change so much in just 3 years? Wang Hanan turned around, not facing David, but in the other direction, twisting vigorously, while the other girls on the stage came over. "Handsome man, let's get to know you." A dancer squatted down, stretched out her fair arm, and touched David's face. David is the favorite of these dancers. Even if you don't have much money, once you catch it, you can hand over your monthly salary obediently. David turned his head slightly and ducked, not letting the dancer touch him, and his eyes never left Wang Hanan's body. "Beauty, let me meet you." There was a man on the side with a wicked smile, suddenly grabbed the dancer's hand, and suddenly pulled down. Chapter 57. The dancer didn't pay attention and was pulled off the stage. The men around were like hungry tigers rushing towards the dancer, touching them with their hands up and down. At this time, I want to come forward to take advantage of it and eat some tofu. Scoop me away, do you want to die? At this time, a woman wearing professional attire and heavy makeup came over and yelled, and behind the woman were 4 strong men with 5 big and 3 thick men. Seeing this, the men who were crazy just now scattered, and all ran back. Sister Yan, the dancer who had just been dragged off the stage, stood up and shouted to the woman with a look of grievance. At this time, the dancer's body was covered with traces of being touched, and even the underwear on her body was deformed by pulling. "Get off!" Sister Yan frowned slightly and yelled at the dancer. The dancer was terrified and hurried to the backstage. Sister Yan glanced around, and then looked at David, who was the only one standing on the edge of the stage. She didn't say anything, but said to Wang Hanan on the stage, "Hanan, come down." Hearing her calling, Wang Hanan hurriedly stopped and walked off the stage. "Sister Yan, what's the matter?" "The big boss is here, let you go and accompany you," Sister Yan said directly. I saw Wang Hanan's body trembled slightly, with a very reluctant expression on his face, but he didn't dare to say anything, so he could only follow Sister Yan away. When passing by David, Wang Hanan deliberately lowered his head and did not dare to look at David. "Hanan," as soon as David shot, he grabbed Wang Hanan's arm. "You know him?" Seeing David holding Wang Hanan, Sister Yan frowned slightly and asked Wang Hanan. "No, don't know." Wang Hanan hurriedly shook his head, then looked at David and said, "Who are you? Let me go, I still have to go to work." Wang Hanan broke free from David and followed Sister Yan towards the backstage. That Sister Yan glared at David and left without saying anything. "Hanan, the big boss is very serious about you. You can't make trouble at this time, especially if you can't find a boyfriend. If you can follow the big boss, Don't talk about your loan sharks. Don't worry, I will follow you in the future. On the way, Sister Yan said to Wang Hanin. Wang Hanin's face was not very good looking, but she still tried her best to squeeze out a smile. Sister Yan, how could the big boss like me? But the big boss takes great care of Yan's sister. Wang Hanin didn't want to follow the big boss of this bar, a big bald fat man, looking a little disgusting. Although she couldn't help it, she didn't want to degenerate to the point of being a mistress for others. I am old, and it will be the world of your young people from now on, as Sister Yan said. She looked at Wang Hanin with envy and jealousy. In their line of business, age is capital. Once you get older, you will have no advantage at all. If you don't get swept out of the house, it's already very good. Soon, the two came to a large and luxurious office. After entering the door, a bald middle-aged man was sitting on the sofa with a bottle of red wine in front of him. Seeing the middle-aged man, Sister Yan bowed slightly and said, "Boss, Hanin is here." "Well, haven't you received a guest?" the middle-aged man asked. "No," the boss explained it. "How dare I not listen?" Sister Yan hurriedly shook her head. "Go out," the middle-aged man waved his hand. That Yan's sister backed out, not forgetting to wink at Wang Hanin, and closed the door. Wang Hanin's body trembled slightly. Facing the big boss alone, Wang Hanin was very scared. Chapter 58 Old Boss, Wang Hanin shouted timidly. The middle-aged man looked up at Wang Hanin, his eyes showed a bit of lust, and he grinned, "Don't be nervous, I won't eat you, come and sit." The middle-aged man patted the sofa beside him. Although Wang Hanin was very scared, he didn't dare not to listen, so he could only move over step by step and sat beside the middle-aged man. Looking at Wang Hanin, who was fair-skinned and exuded a girly fragrance, the middle-aged man's eyes became more lustful. He picked up the red wine in front of him, poured 2 glasses, and handed it to Wang Hanin. "Come, have a drink with me, old boss. I don't know how to drink." Wang Hanin didn't dare to accept it. "Once it is born and cooked twice, won't it be good after drinking it today?" The middle-aged man's mouth raised slightly. Seeing this, Wang Hanin could only take the wine glass, closed his eyes and drank all the red wine in his stomach. Seeing Wang Hanin drinking, the middle-aged man laughed out loud. "I heard Yanzi say that you owe a lot of usury," the middle-aged man asked. Wang Hanin nodded. 1 million, 1 million? It's quite a lot," the middle-aged man said, took out a check, wrote 1 million directly on it, and pushed it in front of Wang Hanin. "Stay with me tonight, make me feel comfortable, this million is yours." The middle-aged man looked at Wang Hanin with confidence. He has done this kind of thing not once or twice. Under the temptation of money, no girl can control it. This method has been tried and tested. Looking at the check in front of her, Wang Hanin's breathing became rapid. "This is 1 million. If she had this 1 million, she wouldn't have to be threatened by those who lend her money, and she wouldn't have to be a dancer in a bar all day. Every day I am worried, for fear of meeting an acquaintance." Wang Hanin's heart was frantically entangled, and she slowly stretched out her hand, but she retracted it again. She knew that as long as she picked up this check, her life would be completely ruined. "Although I am a dancer now, I still have a complete body. When I pay off the money, I can still find a boyfriend to marry. I am not sorry for the other party, but I really want to be someone else's mistress, even if I can find a trustee for my whole life in the future." The man, Wang Hanin himself, will feel guilty for the rest of his life. At this time, she suddenly thought of David. She remembered that when she was a teenager, David protected her very much. At that time, Wang Hanan always shouted that she wanted to marry David. Personally, there are fewer contacts. In addition, David has found Delia, a girlfriend, and he has reached the point of talking about marriage. Wang Hanan has never contacted David. But who knows that the world is impermanent? David's marriage was not completed, but he was sent to prison. Wang Hanan, who was still in college at the time, wanted to go to the prison to see David, but because he went to school, he has been unable to go. Today, when David saw her like this, Wang Hanan was extremely distressed, and she was afraid that David would tell her mother about it. If that happened, her mother would not be angry. My father died early, and my mother raised her with hard work. If she was told that she was a dancer in a bar, she would definitely be mad. If she was someone else's mistress, I am afraid that her mother would definitely not recognize her as a daughter. Thinking of this, Wang Hanan shook his head firmly. Boss, thank you for your love, but I don't have such thoughts. The middle-aged man was stunned for a moment. He didn't expect Wang Hanan to refuse, and was very surprised. You must know that he has tried this method many times, and no one has rejected him. Some girls jumped up with joy. In this society, money is paramount. Chapter 59. Is it because you don't have enough money? I can give you more, and I'm buying you a house. As a love nest for the two of us, you can do whatever you want, and I won't interfere too much in your private life. You only need to accompany me 4 or 5 times. My current body is not suitable for putting too much energy on women, which can earn more than you as a dancer, and you don't have to be eaten by those stinky men. Middle-aged men are still seducing Wang Hanan slowly. Wang Hanan has made up her mind. She can't be someone else's lover. She doesn't want to exchange her life for this short-lived comfort. When she looks at the bald man in front of her, she is disgusted. Boss, I really can't do it, you should find someone else. Wang Hanan shook his head again. Seeing that Wang Hanan was still rejecting him, the middle-aged man turned his face and said, when you come to me, do you still have a choice? There is no woman I can't get enough of. Seeing this, Wang Hanan was so frightened that she got up in a hurry and wanted to run out, but just stood up. She felt the world was spinning and she was dizzy. Ha ha ha, you can't leave, you drank my wine, do you still want to leave? The middle-aged man laughed. Wang Hanan's face turned pale, she wanted to scold, but she couldn't open her mouth anymore, seeing the middle-aged man getting more and more blurry. At the end, he fell on the sofa with a thud, and the whole person could not move, and gradually fell asleep. At the same time, in the bar lobby, Sister Yan was smoking a cigarette and looked at the young and beautiful dancers on the stage with envy. Once upon a time, I was so young and beautiful, and I was very beautiful on the stage, and I was also appreciated and cared for by the big boss. But now, she has become a pimp who finds a woman for the big boss. She doesn't know what will happen to her in a few years. Sister Yan, that Wang Hanan has been spotted by the big boss, and now he is going to flourish, a waiter beside Sister Yan asked in a low voice. Of course, you should be careful when you meet that Wang Hanan in the future, but don't provoke her, or you won't have any good fruit to eat. Sister Yan spit out a chimney. No, but Wang Hanan's figure and skin are simply amazing. If this makes me, shut up, you don't want to live? With your virtue, even the woman of the big boss dares to think about it. Before the waiter could finish speaking, Sister Yan said angrily. Sister Yan, I'm talking nonsense. The waiter slapped himself twice in a hurry. Forget it this time, if there is another time, I will deduct your salary for 1 month, Sister Yan said sharply. Thank you, Sister Yan, thank you, Sister Yan, the waiter hurriedly thanked, stretched out his hand, and squeezed gently on Sister Yan's butt. "Look at how dead you are," Sister Yan smiled and pulled the waiter away. Sister Yan is getting older, although the big boss doesn't like it, but none of the young and strong waiters in the bar can escape her palm. The two talked very quietly at any time, but they were still heard by David. Hearing that Wang Hanin was found by the big boss, it was for this kind of thing, David's face was extremely cold. David got up and walked towards the backstage. As soon as he walked to the door, he was stopped by two waiters. Before the two could make a sound, David directly knocked the two people unconscious. Entering the backstage, David didn't know where Wang Hanin was. There were rooms everywhere, and there was no way to find it, which made David anxious. Just when David was passing a bathroom, he suddenly heard a burst of gasping sounds. Chapter 60. What? I saw that in the compartment, Sister Yan was fighting with the waiter just now, and it seemed that it was just the beginning. When the waiter saw someone rushing in, just as he was about to shout, he was stunned by David's palm, and then grabbed Sister Yan's collar. "Where did you take Hanin?" "You fucking!" Seeing that it was David, Sister Yan immediately yelled at her. But just as he spoke, David grabbed Sister Yan's neck, and Sister Yan suddenly felt difficulty breathing, her face turned red, and there was fear in her eyes. "Yes, in the office," Sister Yan said hurriedly. "Take me there." David let go of Sister Yan. Seeing David's murderous face, Sister Yan didn't dare to play tricks, she could only lead the way in front. After bringing David to the office, David kicked the office door open with one kick. Boom! The loud noise shocked the middle-aged man. After David rushed in, he saw Wang Hanin lying motionless on the sofa, while the bald middle-aged man was walking around Wang Hanin with his hands. Court death! David's eyes were full of anger, and one strode forward, directly kicking the middle-aged man out. "Hanin! Hanin!" David took off his coat and put it on Wang Hanin. Seeing that Wang Hanin was unconscious, he knew that he must have been drugged, so a spiritual force was transported into Wang Hanin's body. Wang Hanin slowly opened his eyes, and after seeing David, he shouted in surprise, "Brother David!" Just shouting, Wang Hanin fell asleep again. It seems that the effect of the drug is too heavy. The middle-aged man was kicked by David, and he lay on the ground, his whole face turned purple. "Boss!" Sister Yan hurried forward and helped the middle-aged man up. The middle-aged man glared at David. "Boy, you dare to beat me, I think you are tired of living, who are you?" While the middle-aged man was roaring, 4 thugs in black suits heard the movement and rushed in. "Boss, this guy may be Wang Hanin's boyfriend," Sister Yan said to the middle-aged man. From David's attitude towards Wang Hanin just now, and his angry expression now, what else could it be if it wasn't a boyfriend? "I don't care who he is, kill him for me, dare to beat me, I will destroy you." When the middle-aged man saw his man rushing in, he immediately shouted loudly. Seeing this, the 4 thugs charged directly towards David. David put down Wang Hanin, and didn't even look at the 4 thugs who rushed over. With a wave of his palm, the 4 thugs flew upside down and slammed heavily on the wall, unable to move one by one. Seeing that David was so powerful, the middle-aged man and Sister Yan were all dumbfounded, with a look of fear on their faces. David looked at the middle-aged man coldly. "Scumbag like you, damn, what do you want to do?" Seeing David's murderous eyes, the middle-aged man said tremblingly, "I can tell you, this bar is covered by Tiger Lord. Do you know who Tiger is?" Just as the middle-aged man finished speaking, David's cell phone rang. It was Lin Tianhe who called David originally, but he never saw David coming, so Lin Tianhe called David to ask. "Mr. Chen, Where have you been? Lin Tianhu asked in a low voice. I'm at Fengjihua Bar, Fengjihua Bar. Lin Tianhu was taken aback. What is Mr. Chen doing at Fengjihua Bar? Murder, the short words contained endless murderous aura, which made Lin Tianhu on the other side of the phone tremble with fright. Mr. Chen, Fengjihua Bar belongs to Bald Li, and has been paying me the protection fee for Jiatang. I will take someone there right now, and I don't need Mr. Chen to do it himself. Lin Tianhu knew that if David could say the word murder, it must be Fengjihua Bar that annoyed David. Okay. David replied with only one word, hung up the phone, and then sat quietly on the sofa and waited. Chapter 61. In the office, there was a dead silence. Sister Yan and the bar owner looked at the calm David, and had a bad premonition in their hearts. Boss, do you think that guy just spoke to Lord Tiger? Sister Yan asked the boss in a low voice. The bar owner didn't answer her, because he didn't know how to answer. The voice that came from the phone just now was very similar to Lin Tianhu's, but such a young man who didn't grow all his hair, and he was selling goods all over his clothes. Like some wealthy son, how could he know Lin Tianhu, and speak to Lin Tianhu in such a wild tone? Seeing that the boss didn't speak, Sister Yan on the side could only comfort herself. It is impossible for Lord Tiger to know such a person, he must be pretending, and the person on the phone just now can't be Lord Tiger, who would dare to use such a tone in Horrendal. Are you talking to Lord Tiger? After hearing this, the bar owner nodded slightly, agreeing with Sister Yan's point of view. Boy, don't pretend to be here, just rely on your virtue. How could Lord Tiger know you? You dare to pretend to be the name of Lord Tiger, this is a capital crime, the bar owner yelled at David. David just glanced at the bar owner slightly, sneered and ignored him. Boss, you give Tiger Lord a call. This kid is making trouble. Ask Tiger Lord to clean him up, just so you can know if it's Tiger on the phone just now. Sister Yan said to the bar owner. The bar owner nodded, took out his mobile phone and was about to call Lin Tianhu, but the phone did ring, and it was Lin Tianhu who was calling. The bar owner hurriedly connected. Master Tiger, Bald Li, how the H3LL did you provoke Mr. Chen? Now you wait for me, I'll be there right away, don't open your Fengjihua Bar, if you have the guts to run away, try it out and see me Lin Tianhu can I find you? The bar owner just got on the phone and called out Lord Tiger, and Lin Tianhu's furious voice came over, which frightened the bar owner to the point of being stupid. Now even if he doesn't want to believe it, the facts are already in front of him. It was indeed Lin Tianhu who had just spoken to David, and Lin Tianhu respectfully called David Mr. Chen. Snapped. The mobile phone in the bar owner's hand fell to the ground and shattered instantly. He looked at David like a fool, and finally knelt down with a thud. That Sister Yan was also full of horror, and fell to the ground together. Mr. Chen, I was wrong, I beg Mr. Chen to let me go, the bar owner desperately kowtowed to David. David ignored him and didn't even look at him. At this time, David was sending spiritual power to Wang Hanin's body, so that Wang Hanin could wake up. I don't know what drug this bar owner used for Wang Hanin, but the effect of the drug is so strong, even David used his own spiritual power to waste a lot of time before Wang Hanin slowly opened his eyes again. Brother David, seeing David, Wang Hanin shouted in shame. After all, being a dancer in a bar is not a glorious career. Hanin, are you feeling better now? Let's go, David helped Wang Hanin up from the sofa and said slowly. Well, Wang Hanin nodded, but when she saw the bar owner and Sister Yan who were kneeling on the ground, she was stunned. She didn't understand why these two people knelt on the ground, could it be because of David? Wang Hanin looked at David puzzled. After all, in Wang Hanin's eyes, David was just an ordinary person, and he was just an ordinary person who had been in prison. Let's go, David did not explain, but dragged Wang Hanin out. Chapter 62. In the lobby of the bar, Lin Tianhu had already brought people here and drove all the guests out. All the staff in the bar were surrounded by the corner and squatted on the ground. Wang Hanin saw so many people, and they were all holding weapons, and his face was pale for a while, and one hand was tightly grasping David's arm, trembling slightly. "Don't be afraid," David comforted Wang Hanin softly. Seeing David coming out, Lin Tianhu was about to step forward to speak, but was stopped by David with his eyes. David didn't want Wang Hanin to know that he knew Lin Tianhu. After all, Lin Tianhu is not a good person in the eyes of ordinary people. If he let his parents know that he was with Lin Tianhu, he would be very angry. Lin Tianhu instantly understood the meaning in David's eyes, and after a wave of his hand, the person guarding the bar's door immediately got out of the way. David took Wang Hanin and walked out under the watchful eyes of dozens of people. As soon as the two walked out of the bar, they heard screams and smashing sounds coming from the bar. After stopping a taxi, David took Wang Hanin home. On the way back, Wang Hanin looked at David and tried to open his mouth to explain something several times, but every time he couldn't say anything. "Why did you come back to work in a place like this?" David was the first to speak. Wang Hanin lowered her head, rubbed her hands together, bit her lip, and said after a while, "Brother David, can you not tell my mother? If you let her know, she will be pissed off." David nodded. Wang Hanin sorted out his emotions, and then continued, "I owe 1,000,000 loan sharks now. If I don't go to work in that kind of place, there is no way to repay the money. If I can't pay it, they will come to me." "Mom wants to," Wang Hanin said, tears fell down. "Why do you owe so much money?" David frowned slightly. Wang Hanin's family is not very good, so Wang Hanin has been very frugal since he was a child, and he never spends money indiscriminately. How could he suddenly owe so much money? When David asked this, Wang Hanin cried even more, crying and saying, "When I was in college, I met a boyfriend who was 2 years older than me and was my senior. I needed money, so I used my identity to borrow a usury loan, but who knows that after borrowing the money, I will never be able to contact him again." After Wang Hanin finished speaking, David instantly understood that she was deceived by the so-called boyfriend. At this moment, the taxi driver sighed, "Hey, now this little girl is too simple, too easy to trust people. 1 million is not a small amount. I heard about a little girl 2 days ago. Because of loan sharks, I jumped into a river and committed suicide. Hanin, don't cry, I'll help you find a way for this million." David patted Wang Hanin's shoulder gently. Wang Hanin raised his head and looked at David gratefully. "Brother David, I know you have just been released from prison, you don't even have a job, where is there so much money? Just don't tell my mother, I'll find a way myself. You don't worry, I won't do stupid things. If I leave, my mother will definitely not be able to live." David smiled slightly and didn't say anything, but Wang Hanin would definitely help deal with this $1 million usury. Now he still has the card given by Reuben, and there is still 10 million in it. Even if he spends more money, David can follow Lin Tianhu to ask for it. After all, the entire Jiatang is now his own. After returning to the community, the taxi driver did not accept the money from David and the others, but looked at Wang Hanin with a smile on his face and said, "Little girl, if you want to open up, the big things can pass." After speaking, the taxi driver kicked the accelerator and left. Looking at the back of the taxi, David sighed, "There are still many good people in this world. Chapter 63 David brought Wang Hanin home and found that Wang Chongfeng was still chatting with his parents at his own house. Originally, David wanted Wang Hanin to stabilize his emotions and then went home, but this time he was discovered directly. Seeing David and Wang Hanin go home together, Wang Chongfeng and Chen Baoqiu were all stunned. Only Barbara couldn't see it, and there was no change in expression, but said lightly, "David, are you back? Why is that? Come back late." Chen Baoqiu, who was on the side, pulled Barbara's arm. "David and Hanin are together, they came back together." When he said this, Chen Baoqiu's face was full of smiles. When Barbara heard it, she immediately smiled and said, "David, you child, you can go to Hanin, just tell us directly, and go secretly by yourself. Do you want to surprise us?" David was speechless for a while and wanted to explain, but he didn't know how to explain it. At this time, only Wang Chongfeng found that Wang Hanin's face was wrong, and he had cried, so he frowned slightly and said, "Hanin, aren't you going to work overtime? And why did you cry? You still smell of alcohol." Wang Changfeng's series of questions made Wang Hanin panic, not knowing how to answer. "Aunt Wang, Hanin didn't work overtime. She went to drink with her colleagues. As a result, those people kept drinking her. I found out and brought Hanin back." David hurriedly made up a lie. Upon hearing this, Wang Chongfeng hurriedly got up and looked at Wang Hanin's body, her eyes full of concern. "What kind of colleagues are you? Knowing that you don't know how to drink, it's too much to drink you." Seeing her mother being so nervous about herself, Wang Hanin couldn't bear it any longer, hugged Wang Chongfeng and cried again. Wang Chongfeng comforted Wang Hanin, "Hanin, if the work is not happy, we will not do it." What a broken colleague! Wang Chongfeng thought that Wang Hanin was being bullied by his colleagues and felt aggrieved. After all, Wang Hanin has not worked for a long time. He is a newcomer, and many companies bully newcomers. "Yes, Hanin, don't cry. If it's a big deal, we'll quit. Tomorrow, your Uncle Chen will go to the trustee to find a job for David, and ask him to help you ask. We're college students, and we're afraid we won't have a job." Barbara also hurriedly persuaded Wang Hanin. "Tomorrow I will ask together, it should be no problem. After all, this person is my old comrade in arms." Chen Baoqiu also spoke up. The more several people persuaded Wang Hanin, the more sad Wang Hanin cried. Only David himself knew why Wang Hanin was crying. Wang Chongfeng had no choice but to take Wang Hanin home. "David, you should go to bed earlier too. I will take you to your Uncle Sun's house tomorrow and ask him to find a job for you. By the way, I also ask Hanin, this child is really suffering." Barbara sighed, "You can't bully Hanin in the future, be nice to others." The Uncle Sun mentioned by Barbara is Chen Baoqiu's comrade-in-arms Sun Fuhe. After he was discharged from the army, Chen Baoqiu became a civil servant in politics, while Sun Fuhe went to sea with the retirement allowance to do business. "Mom, okay, go to sleep." Barbara didn't listen to David's words and left. David was a little helpless. He always took Wang Hanin as his sister, and he didn't have that kind of relationship between men and women. Now he doesn't know how to tell his parents. After shaking his head helplessly, David also went back to his room to sleep. Pine Bay couldn't go there for a short time, he was afraid that his parents would get angry. Early the next morning, Barbara shouted, "David, get up quickly, dress better, don't be sloppy, your Uncle Sun specially asked for a day off for us." "Got it," David opened his eyes and said. After a simple breakfast, the three of them hurried out the door, took a taxi, and headed for Sun Fuhe's house. Chapter 64 Sun Fuhei's family lives in a relatively well-known Phoenix Manor community in Horrendal. The average price of a house here is more than 10,000. A house can easily cost more than 1 million. It is not something that ordinary people in a small place like Horrendal can afford. David, when you get to the place, be sweet and polite. After all, we are asking for help. In your situation, it is difficult to find a job. No company is willing to find someone who has been in prison. You should pay more attention to yourself. In the car, Barbara kept telling David, for fear that David made a mistake. Okay, don't say a few words. What's wrong with being in jail? Is it okay to think that your character is not good after being in prison? I have followed Fu Ha's affection for many years. This is definitely no problem. Chen Baokuo turned his head from the co-pilot and said to Barbara. He was afraid that Barbara's nagging would upset David, especially when he mentioned the matter of going to jail. After all, it was enough for David to go to jail. You two are so affectionate, why haven't you seen him come to see you in the past few years? Don't you know how we've lived in the past few years? Barbara was a little unhappy. David has been in prison for the past few years, and their family's life has plummeted, but Sun Fuhei has not been seen once. Okay, don't blame Fu Hai. I didn't tell him, I didn't tell the situation of our house, and he didn't know the address of our house, how to see it. I didn't jump on him, there is no such person as Sun Fuhei now. Chen Baokuo is a relatively strong person, and he was a squad leader back then, so he is like this now, and I am embarrassed to tell my comrades in arms. If it weren't for David's job search, he would not have come to beg Sun Fuhei. Mom, it's not that you don't know my dad's temperament. I will pay attention to it when I get there. When I earn money from work, our family will be better, David said to Barbara. Now David has 10 million in his pocket, but he can't tell his parents. After all, the money can't be explained. If he tells the truth, his parents won't believe it. After all, his 3 years in prison is too legendary. At this time, in a 2-story villa in Phoenix Manor, Sun Fuhei, who was in his 50s, was wearing a very old military uniform and was sorting out in front of the mirror. On the sofa, a girl in her early 20s looks pretty good, with a tall body, wearing plaid pajamas, and half lying on the sofa playing with her mobile phone. Dad, what are you smoking? The broken military uniform from many years ago, and you still wear it. The girl glanced at Sun Fuhei and said. This girl is Sun Xiaomeng, the only daughter of Sun Fuhei. Your dad is going to see an old comrade in arms, so he took it out and put it on, but his belly is too big, and the clothes don't fit. A middle-aged woman came out of the kitchen with a plate of fruit. The woman was wearing a black dress with a white shirt inside, a pair of flesh-colored stockings and high-heeled shoes, obviously a professional white-collar dress, and light makeup. The age looks very young. This woman is Sun Fuhei's wife, Li Fengxia, who works as a sales manager in her own company. Old Sun, who is this comrade in arms? I heard that several of your comrades in arms are well developed. You walk around a bit more and let them help. Maybe our company will be able to tide over the difficulties. Otherwise, it will be bankrupt after a period of resistance. Li Fengxia put down the fruit and asked Sun Fuhei worriedly. Don't worry about it, this time it's our old monitor who came to the house. We haven't seen each other for a few years, so please be polite to me, Sun Fuhei said to Li Fengxia impatiently. Old squad leader? Then maybe it's already well developed by now. I remember you mentioned it before and saved your life. Later, after being discharged from the army, you entered politics, Li Fengxia continued to ask. Chapter 65 Well, it's just that I haven't been in touch in recent years, I don't know what's going on. Sun Fuhe nodded. Maybe I've already become a high-ranking official now, I'll be here in a while, you can talk about the past. Li Fengxia looked excited, then looked at Sun Xiaomeng on the sofa and said, Go and change your clothes, there will be guests at home, what are you doing like this? And your father, the old class leader, has a son, and when the time comes, everyone will come together, maybe. Oh, Mom, stop talking, I have a boyfriend now, and it's not like you don't know, it's really annoying. Sun Xiaomeng stood up from the sofa and walked towards the bedroom impatiently. You girl, I'm not doing it for you, then Kui Ziwen is just a company sales manager, and the second generation official came here, can it be the same? Li Fengxia shouted from behind. Sun Xiaomeng didn't say anything, but after entering the bedroom, she closed the door with force. This child is so disobedient, Li Fengxia muttered, and then said to Sun Fuhe, Old son, I'm going to wash some fruit, you remember to call to book a hotel, it's better, let's have dinner together at noon. Okay. Sun Fuhe nodded. Soon, David's family arrived. After ringing the doorbell, Sun Fuhe hurried to open the door. When Chen Baoqiu and Sun Fuhe met, both of them were stunned for a moment, and then hugged heavily. Old squad leader, I miss you so much. You have changed so much over the years, and your hair has turned a lot white, Sun Fuhe laughed. Haha, your kid has also gained weight. With your current body shape, you still dare to wear a military uniform, Chen Baoqiu laughed and punched Sun Fuhe. Sun Fuhe put his eyes on Barbara and David. When he saw that Barbara had open eyes, but his eyes were dull, as if he couldn't see anything, he was stunned for a moment. Seeing this, Chen Baoqiu hurriedly introduced, This is my wife, Barbara, who fell ill a few years ago and lost her eyesight. Sun Fuhe hurriedly said to Barbara, Hello, sister-in-law, hurry up and sit in the room. Barbara smiled and nodded again and again, Okay, I often hear Lao Chen mention your things at home, if I didn't have the old monitor back then, I would have been reincarnated now. Sun Fuhe quickly helped Barbara into the door. Uncle Sun, let me come, David stepped forward and supported Barbara. This is my son David, Chen Baoqiu said. Well, a talented person, the same as your father back then. Sun Fuhe glanced at David and said with a smile. David followed with a smile, Sun Fuhe gave him a good impression, and the smile on his face was sincere and not contrived. But no one noticed that after Sun Fuhe's words, both Chen Baoqiu and Barbara's expressions changed slightly, but it was only fleeting. Old son, is the old monitor here? Li Fengxia came out of the kitchen with another large plate of fruit and hurriedly greeted her. Old monitor, this is my wife Li Fengxia, Sun Fuhe followed Chen Baoqiu's introduction. Hello brother and sister, Chen Baoqiu smiled slightly. Li Fengxia was stunned for a moment. She found that Chen Baoqiu was wearing ordinary clothes and grey hair, and she did not have the majesty of a high-ranking official. Looking at Barbara who followed David, they were all plain and simple, just an ordinary person. Is it all so simple to be a high-ranking official now? Li Fengxia muttered in her heart. What are you stunned for? The old monitor is talking to you. Sun Fuhe saw that Li Fengxia was stunned, so he pulled a hand and said. Oh, hello brother, hello sister-in-law, sit down, I'll wash the fruit for you. Li Fengxia reacted and hurriedly greeted her with a smile. Join our Facebook and WhatsApp group for more updates, link is given in description, rest audiobook will be continued in next episode.